mocked me because I fell victim to a scam, a pyramid scheme, and did this whole thing. And I was hurt a little bit because I knew there was something more to this water. I believed in it. And I wanted to show there was more than this. And I try to say some testimonials, that I've heard and my mom had because she said she could run better with the water. Of course, that doesn't pass muster with a scientist. And it doesn't pass muster with me either. However, it is interesting. I like to hear testimonials. Anyways, they said the only way to really know is to do a study. And then you can know if this really helps you with exercise performance. Don, you were just asking earlier about, exercise and whatnot. This is the very study that I did. I took, by myself, no mentor or anything, I did a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled study. That is, I took one group of people and another group of people, and I randomized who got the water and who didn't. I didn't know who was who. I had other people helping me do the study. They drank the water for a week, and then I had them run at a really hard pace for as long as they could until they had to stop. The other group did the same thing. And then I switched them, and they switched waters and did the same thing. And then I did a statistical analysis to see if there was any significant difference. Indeed, there was. Those on the water ran longer, and they recovered faster than those not drinking the hydrogen water. Then I took those results and I presented at the Undergraduate Senior Research Conference. And my coach was there, and guess who also were judges and people there at the research conference?
Your professors.
Those same professors. Those same ones. And they're like, well, this will be interesting. They're going to, So they took a look at my methodology, my procedure, how I put the study together to find the flaws, the confounds, all these different things. They didn't find a single problem. And they said, this is very interesting. And they asked for a copy of my study. And I sent that to them. And then I really started immersing myself into the literature. And that's when I came across hydrogen water. I started coming across hydrogen gas, and that's what the real benefit is. And I started sharing that with my professors and talking about it. And of course, now I was going to, really advance into my knowledge in chemistry, general chemistry, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry, molecular and cell biology, physiology, exercise physiology, nutritional biochemistry, all of these classes. I have over 180 credits, and I majored in biochemistry. That's what my degree is in. I tutored biochemistry for like 2 years and tutored an advanced physiology class for another 2 years. And I was given an opportunity to be an adjunct instructor of physiology at Brigham Young University, Idaho, which I've been doing now for a year. And this is my last semester. I love teaching. I love interacting with people. And my passion has always been in this hydrogen for the past 5 years. I've been very dedicated to this. And so my great relationship, those professors, that's my biology department. Those are my colleagues. They're my good friends now. They drink the hydrogen water now. Let that make sense to you that when a scientist or a professional or an academic or a doctor, when you present them with good data, they're interested. They want to look at it. They're not going to reject you and call it snake oil and quackery. But when you present them with quackery, they'll say it's quackery. If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's probably a duck. But there is something special about this water, and that's the hydrogen gas. Now, I want to make another thing very clear. There are perhaps sometimes on Facebook and whatnot, people who assume that maybe I'm just this scientist or this and that and think everyone is stupid because they don't know as much as I do, or maybe I think that people are dumb because they're saying something that's wrong and it's not true. That cannot be further from the truth. I do not fault anyone for believing what they believe or for saying what they're saying because they were taught that. Indeed, the scientists themselves at one time did not know that it was the hydrogen gas that mattered. Let's now talk about another story. I'm going to tell you 3 stories. That was one. The next one is talk about the ionized water story. How did this come? What is the history? Ionized water, well, they started back in the 1930s doing research here and there, agriculture and whatnot, seeing some awesome stuff. Hey, well, let's have some humans drink this. Maybe it could be good too. They saw some cool stuff, especially with the gastrointestinal symptoms, from diarrhea, constipation, these types of things. They went to the government in 1965, and it was approved, as you know, as a medical device to help with the symptoms of those things. That's it. That's all it was. So now in Japan, they are considered a medical device. you cannot manufacture water ionizer or sell them without the certification. That's Japanese law. Same thing in Korea. The Korean FDA, that's the Korean Federal Drug Agency, if they're approved. You cannot do that there in the FDA because of the government. So, but that doesn't mean it was anything special. It was just about it had these symptoms, for gastrointestinal symptoms and whatnot. But then the patients and people started buying the ionized water, and they're like, and drinking it, and they were starting getting better from diabetes, Parkinson's, all these things, all these clinical improvements. Especially in 1985 or so, all these clinical improvements started happening. All these doctors in Japan and whatnot were like, oh my goodness, how is this water really helping? What's going on here? They didn't know why. It didn't make sense that it was the alkaline water. It did not make any sense at all just because of the alkaline pH. And the reason why is because the water's not a buffer. How many sodas of alkaline water, or how many glasses of alkaline water does it take to neutralize a soda? 32. You've done that, like 32, right? So, and if you do the math, let's talk about baking soda, right? How many liters of alkaline water, how many cups in a liter? Like 4 or so? So, I do everything in liters and milliliters, so I use ounce stuff. I don't know what you guys do. So my question is, if we were to compare how many liters is equivalent to 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So how many liters of alkaline water can neutralize the same amount of 1 teaspoon of baking soda? Maybe 10? Using 10 liters of alkaline water with a pH of 10 can neutralize the same amount of acid as a teaspoon of baking soda? How about 20 liters? How about 50 liters? How about 100 liters? Maybe 100 liters of alkaline water at a pH of 10 can neutralize the same amount of acid as 1 teaspoon of baking soda. 1,000? 10,000. 10,000 liters of alkaline water at a pH of 10 can neutralize the same amount of acid as 1 teaspoon of baking soda. So it's clear the benefits from the water is not just pH. And if it were, then why would anybody buy a machine that does it? You can just take the sodium bicarbonate, you know what I mean? It doesn't, baking soda doesn't make any sense. So these doctors and scientists, when they started seeing in their hospitals all these clinical improvements, they were amazed. So in about the 1990s, they started doing real research. They started doing research on ionized water. Is this really an antioxidant? And they found that it was. One of the first articles, 1997 by Shirhata, you guys have seen that from Kyushu University, that showed the water had antioxidant properties. But why? That was still the question that eluded not only the marketers, but also the scientists. They didn't know why. So ideas were proposed, from free electrons in the water, to microclustering of the water, to maybe it is something with the alkaline pH, to maybe an entropy factor, to just pure magic water. They didn't know. And they kept on finding these benefits. Another professor from Maminoto from Kyushu University, she got into doing ionized water because she had her friends, some of them had Parkinson's disease, and they were getting a lot better from drinking ionized water. They came to her and said, please tell us, how's this water making me better? We don't know, how is it working? And she's like, well, number one, I don't know if it really is, it could just be placebo. Because that's true, the placebo effect was awesome. So she did a study, she found it really was being beneficial in Parkinson's disease. And then she tried to figure out why. She was doing research for years trying to figure out how. Then on the other side of the field, there was some research on hydrogen gas. 2007, there's an article published in the Journal of Nature Medicine. That article showed that hydrogen acts as a selective therapeutic antioxidant that can scavenge the hydroxyl radical. Nature Medicine is a big deal. That is one of the most prestigious journals in the scientific community. Has the highest impact factor. Anybody who's anything in the medical professional or academia knows the journal Nature because it's very reputable. It's not just some Asian journal of whatever, you know. So it made a big deal. It made a huge thing in the literature. Well, then people like Maminoto from Kyushu University, she read that article and she was like, oh my goodness. When you do electrolysis, just as we explained, what are you producing at the cathode? Hydrogen gas. She says, I wonder if it's hydrogen gas causing these benefits. So then she went through a series of studies. And she tested all the properties of the water, from the pH, the mineral composition, to anything she could do to isolate properties, and also the hydrogen gas. she found the only one that worked was the hydrogen gas. Now, many studies have gone through, and they have found, and this is unequivocally clear, that when you add additional hydrogen gas to the water, the benefits are increased. When you eliminate the hydrogen gas from the water, the benefits are also eliminated. That's been shown over and over and over again. I have an article on my website. I cite, probably 70 different articles as I go through scientific literature, and I show that the ionized water is therapeutic because of the dissolved hydrogen gas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So, with that, that's my second story. So that's where we're at today, okay? So that's why when you look at the early literature, 1997, 2004, that kind of stuff, doesn't really say anything about hydrogen gas. Most things post-2007, especially in 2010 and above, and earlier, they're all talk about hydrogen gas, and that's what makes the benefit. Now, you ready for my third story? This one is a romantic story. So, it's kind of cool. We're gonna go back to the origins, the beginning of the universe. Hydrogen. I'm gonna talk about hydrogen has a story. All right. 14 billion years ago. That's how far back we're going. 14 billion years ago. Now we're just gonna go from the scientific model using the Big Bang theory, the theory of evolution, all this kind of stuff, because it's actually a very magical, romantic story. It's very cool. 14 billion years ago, the Big Bang. And Don wakes up. Just kidding. But what was born? Don was born. I mean, hydrogen gas was born. No, hydrogen gas came into existence. That's what happened. From hydrogen came all the other elements of the periodic table. Oxygen, nitrogen, carbon. All of those are basically just hydrogen shoved together. Carbon has 12 hydrogen atoms shoved together so tight basically that now it's a different atom altogether. It's carbon. Does that make sense? Everything comes from hydrogen. And then, about 4 billion years ago or so, we have this wonderful globe, okay? And guess what the atmosphere was very rich in? Hydrogen gas. We're back at it again. Well, hydrogen gas has tons of antioxidants, food, energy, electrons. And it's because of all the energy and electrons and everything right there, now life could start. Hydrogen gas, which already produced oxygen, because oxygen is also from hydrogen, because that's what happens in the alpha helix process. You have oxygen. Well, what happens when you have hydrogen and oxygen that react together? What do you make? Water. Is that not the life-giving solvent? Is that not what NASA looks for? But it all started with hydrogen. It's a cool story, think about the connection of water and water is amazing organic solid, but you have hydrogen, the reducing substance over here, right? Then you have oxygen. We're all oxygen this, everything is good about oxygen. The oxidizer. Life is balanced like a battery, right? Negative and positive. Reducing, oxidizing. Just like hydrogen, oxygen. They react together to form the life-giving solid water. They married each other. And that's why it's so beautiful. That's kind of a romantic thing. But wait, there's more. They had kids. So, hydrogen, and 4 billion years ago, you start having the bacteria, and the bacteria can start eating the hydrogen gas because they can extract the electrons and get energy and make ATP. And then you continue going on, and that's the whole genesis of life, and then eventually